And I thought, oh my goodness, I got to call my doctor. I'm experiencing dementia. I'm like having a panic attack, okay? So I said, no, this can't be. I can't be losing my mind. It's too early. And so I did a little bit of research. I mean, I knew this already, but I wanted to make sure it was concrete. And I literally went out and bought a bunch of blueberries, like, you know, those big pints of blueberries. And I sat there and I would eat, like, I think that evening, I ate 2 of them. And I don't know if this is a coincidence, but the next day, I woke up and I was like, Junior, I remembered my dream. This is wonderful. Well, the thing about blueberries is, what blueberry does is it activates a specific peptide, a protein that's in the brain called BDNF. And BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Neuro means brain, trophic means food. So what blueberry does is it actually feeds the brain. It activates this BDNF. And what this does is this BDNF, it works in areas of the brain that increases cognitivity as well as memory. It activates memory. And so it's very good for people who are experiencing some form of dementia or Alzheimer's, it's even good for. But these are fruits or vegetables that can actually help with brain function. Another thing that's also good for not necessarily memory, but more of like, say, people who are mildly depressed. Now, the reason I put up this disclaimer is that there's some people who are already on antidepressants. And some antidepressants are in a class called SSRIs. Now, SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And for some reason, this particular herb called St. John's wort is kind of like a nature's Prozac. What it does is it plays the role that an SSRI medication would do. So my disclaimer would be that I'm not telling you to take St. John's instead of your antidepressant. In fact, they cannot work together. It's either one or the other. You'd have to speak to your doctor in regards to that. The problem with SSRIs, since I have some young people in here, we know that depression has also increased among young individuals as well. And so what they're doing, unfortunately, they're also prescribing young people these SSRI medications. They're antidepressants. They're almost like anxiety medication for the young people of this generation. Not just this generation, but I myself had anxiety when I was younger. But particularly now with COVID, isolation, online learning, etc., we're finding that more young people have an increase in anxiety and depression. And if parents are in here and they're dealing with those kind of issues, I would really like for you to take it upon yourself to do additional research. These SSRIs are actually, they have been black boxed by the FDA. Black box means that these are medications that are in a warning zone, particularly for young people. The human brain continues to grow physiologically up until the age of about 25. So your brain is actually growing and changing up until that point. Older individuals like myself, our brain are basically fixed. Not that we can't learn new things, but they're pretty much fixed. With a formative brain that's growing, these SSRIs can be damaging. They might actually do the opposite. Children and young people who are facing issues such as suicide, it can actually exacerbate it, and these individuals will actually go into that direction instead of away from it. So SSRIs for young people are quite dangerous up until the age of 25. So that brings us back to why I'm here. Promoting health and well-being, using the things that are within our foods to enhance and better our brain function so that we can be well. Sorry, my throat is dry. I'm not sure why. I didn't drink enough water today. Shame on me. My clicker. Maybe the battery is low. Is that possible? Or should I have you change the slide? Would that be better? Okay, so we're going to go right into other health issues, diabetes, and I'll even tell you how this is related. In fact, diabetes is one of the diseases that actually lowers that BDNF. So people with insulin-resistant diabetes, type 2 diabetes, they have lower brain-derived neurotrophic factors. So they will have issues with memory and understanding as well. So best thing to do is avoid diabetes or somehow find a way to treat it. Diabetes is reversible if you follow particular regimens. In fact, they are using research and studies using Adventist individuals. Now, not all Adventists are vegans. However, the world sees us as an institution of individuals that are up on the chart next to the Japanese island called Okinawa. Yes, Okinawa. And we're basically up there in terms of those individuals with superior health. And diabetes is, and Adventists are part of that study as well. Thank you so much. I'm completely dry. This is good. Thank you. So, diabetes is a chronic disorder. Everybody pretty much knows what diabetes is. They know that it has to do with sugar, but I would love to dispel one myth in regards to diabetes, and I'm going to do that today. So when you think of diabetes, automatically the word that comes to your head is sugar, right? Well, that's the myth I'm going to dispel today. So it's all about sugar and the control or the lack thereof of control of sugar. So it's a chronic disorder of carbohydrates, fat, protein metabolism, characterized by the elevation of blood sugar level after fasting. It can occur when the pancreas, it's an organ that's situated behind the stomach, and that pancreas does not secrete enough insulin, which is a hormone that helps your body put sugar into the cell. Okay? Oh, it's working very good now. Too good. Oh boy. Okay, so there's two types, type 1, type 2. So I'm going to move quickly through these. Type 1 is one that we don't need to discuss. This one is more like a genetic disorder. Your immune system, it's an autoimmune disease. Your immune system attacks these cells in your pancreas. Your pancreas has two types of cells, alpha and beta. Beta is the cells that actually make insulin to bring sugar into your cells. So the immune system attacks it, and the person loses the ability to produce insulin. Therefore, they have to do it artificially. Type 2 is typical of North America. Children can have diabetes, so this applies to you, the young people as well. So, you can go along your way. You're young, you're strong, you're resilient in terms of your health. However, what happens is you can build on top of things throughout the years and eventually end up with diabetes based on your diet. God created this body with balance, and when we throw things off balance is where disease comes into play. The word disease is defined as such. It's an imbalance of what is supposed to happen within the body. So in regards to diabetes, oh, wow. Okay, so here we have insulin, the hormone, okay? So insulin is basically the hormone that's secreted from the pancreas. So you guys probably know this already. And this is where I'm going to dispel one of the myth in regards to sugar. And it sounds like good news, but it's not completely good news. Okay. Oops. Come on, work for me, please. Okay, stay. Okay, here we go. All right. So pointer doesn't work either. Oh. Can you guys see the pointer? No, right? Oh, works over there. It doesn't work on here. Okay, forget that. Okay, so you can see the insulin up on the top left-hand corner, and that is the key. So when you come home from work and you have your key and you put it in the lock, it works perfectly, beautifully, right? You get into the house, yay, right? that's insulin working really well. Now, once it attaches itself to that receptor, there's a gate over there that opens up. And this is basically your cell, your bloodstream is along the way, and the sugar leaves the bloodstream and enters the cell. Every cell is being nurtured by blood vessels surrounding it. Every cell, okay? Except for cartilages, like your knee. You lose your kneecap, it's hard for it to grow back because there's no nourishing of blood vessels. So anyways, I digress. So once that enters, everything is working great. Sugar is being used by the cell, energy is being produced. Over time now, the insulin is like a factory, right? Or the pancreas, I should say, and it lets out all this insulin into the bloodstream. Oh, I eat some sugar. Oh, I feel great. Insulin goes out. I eat more sugar. Insulin goes out. I'm eating more, eating more, eating more. So much insulin keeps going out. Over time, the pancreas starts to produce less. Sugar accumulates in the blood, and basically, that's diabetes. So you're thinking sugar, right? Just sugar. The issue is, sugar can be, well, it's not necessarily the main cause of diabetes. Now, I'll go straight to the point. For diabetes, you eat high complex sugars. I'll tell you what those are in detail. Low fat, so low fat, high fiber, reduce your stress. Okay, so we're talking about mental health as well. Stress, people think it's like an entity. Oh, I'm stressed today. Like today I was stressed. I had a lot of things going on, so I was kind of stressed. But chemically, when I'm stressed, my body's saying something. It starts to secrete certain hormones, again, certain chemicals. Cortisone is one of them. Cortisone, when secreted by stress, what happens is, you can tell when people are stressed too, because over time, they develop abdominal fat. Okay, these are probably for older folks. The young people, they're okay for now. But but over time, you get that abdominal stomach, and because cortisone, when secreted in the blood, it turns into triglycerides, and these triglycerides, basically fat. Your fat cells, they get bigger, you get bigger. Okay, but the one that I want to focus on is number 2. I'll come back to glycemic index because I'm going to move through this faster so we can get downstairs. Okay, so before I get to the number 2, which is about fat, we'll just say what macromolecules are, macronutrients. So we have protein, fat, sugar. Carbohydrates, everybody's confused by carbohydrates. People who are diabetic are confused by what sugars are. My mom is a diabetic, and I find it frustrating that I'm constantly telling her, no, Mom, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Why? And I'm hoping there's no dietitian here, no offense, but nutritionist and dietitian, we have a little bit of a rivalry. The nutrition institution, myself, believe that the outline for a diet for a diabetic individual is really not the best way to go about helping yourself with diabetes. So carbohydrates, we believe, are not necessarily the real culprit when it comes to diabetes. So we know that carbohydrates are sugars, they're starch like your potatoes, and they can be part of your fibers such as your green vegetables. Those are also carbohydrates too. Okay? And those, these digest very simply, but fibers, they don't digest, which is a good thing. So they provide the roughage. The more roughage you have, the less sugar that climbs in your bloodstream. Okay? The less insulin pumps out. Okay, simple carbohydrates is your single sugar, your candy. That's the yummy stuff. It's also found in honey. So diabetics might say, oh, but it's natural, I can eat honey. Honey is sugar, do you agree? Potatoes, sugar, yes. Even if you have brown sugar, that's sugar, right? So all of these are sugar. It doesn't matter what. You put them in your body, and your body says, sugar, sugar, sugar. The difference is what comes with it. White sugar, nothing accompanies it. It's just white. Brown sugar, don't be fooled. It's literally white sugar with a drop of molasses, depending on how much you want to put in. The darker it is, they put a little bit more molasses. It's still sugar, okay? So your body sees it as sugar. The difference is how does your body treat it. If it has nothing with it, then your body is going to say, well, I need this to digest it and I need that. And it starts to rob your body of nutrients. That's white sugar. If you eat an apple now, the apple, sugar, right? But now it has all the enzymes and all the components in that apple that God has created. Everything is in there. It's perfect. Everything is in that apple. Not the apple juice, the apple. Okay? So that is the difference. So no to those simple carbohydrate complex, they still break down into sugars, except some of them have more fibers than others. So simple carbohydrates. Those single balls are individual sugars. Complex, more of them. Okay? This is how it looks when you eat complex. It gradually breaks down, releasing sugar slowly into your bloodstream. Okay? So now insulin resistance. This is where I'm going to dispel the myth. So generally we think about sugar, but this is what happens over time. And this deals with a plant-based diet versus one that is not plant-based. When we look at the cell, you guys already saw this in a simpler form. I don't have my pointer, but this is the cell. And when you eat fat, this cell, every one of your cells, all those trillions of cells in your body, they're beautifully and wonderfully made, right? So the outside part is made of what you call a phospholipid bilayer. Bilayer means two layers. Phospholipid, phosphorus, lipid, fat is in it. So when fat comes along and you eat that burger or French fries or potato chips, and you ingest that fat, the fat doesn't need permission like the glucose does with its own channel to enter the cell. The fat can just go into the cell, right? Doesn't need a channel because the cell itself is made up of a lipid. So the fat comes along and guess where it goes? In the cell. And you keep eating the fat, goes in the cell. And you keep eating more fat, goes in the cell. And over time, what do you think happens to the cell? Yeah. The cell gets fat. So you get fatty deposits in the cell. So what happens when you stretch something over time? Like say you have a balloon or some sort and you keep filling it up. And what happens to the surface of the balloon? It stretches, right? And if you put something on there, it's going to change, right? So what happens when you deposit all that fat in there? That beautiful receptor that used to bind with the insulin changes form. Sorry, that's my alarm. Okay, it changes form, and guess what? The insulin can no longer lock on. So an analogy is now you come home from work, from school, and you put the key in the lock, and it won't turn. Because some kid pranked your house and decided to put gum inside of your lock. And there's no way you can get that key in. That is what happens with the fat. That is called insulin resistant. Sugar has no part in that concept, does it? Because what has happened now, the cell has grown, it's gotten fat, that receptor, the lock to your house, is now clogged up, change configuration. So this is usually type 2 diabetes in people who have gained a lot of weight, and all of a sudden they've been diagnosed with diabetes. It's reversible. The individual now, there's been research, Dr. Bernard, he's an amazing researcher, doctor, teamed up with a bunch of researchers and scientists, and they did a study using Adventist as well, in which the individuals had different categories, plant-based, people who ate meat, etc. And they showed how the plant-based individuals which usually had low prevalence of diabetes. Anybody in that category who for some reason had gained weight and ended up with diabetes, once they lost the weight, once that that cell starts to shrink in size, you know what happens? That key is clear, and the insulin can attach itself. Diabetes reversed. However, this will not happen because if you stretch a rubber band long enough and you keep it in that position long enough, it loses its elasticity. If this person does not lose the weight fast enough, and even when they do lose the weight, it may not come back because it's been too long. Maybe you've been doing this for 20 years and you finally had an epiphany and said, okay, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to do better. And it's not to say it's still not reversible. It's just going to be much more work. So why put yourself through that? Start the way or the journey sooner than later is basically what I'm saying. So I don't want you to walk away thinking that I can eat all the sugar I want. That's not the case. I'm just saying that the initial start of type 2 diabetes really is not so much about the sugar, because sugar does convert to fat. And it's the fat that clogs the cells, makes it insulin resistant. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is not to just look out for sugar, but the fat that you eat. Okay? Focus on vegetables, legumes high in fiber, lower glycemic index. The glycemic index slides that I passed quickly are basically the way of measuring how your body copes with sugar. So the range would be a potato is 100. So that has like a really high glycemic index. And it goes down according to the vegetables. Sugar, things that are sweet, have a high glycemic index, so you'd want to stay away from those. So you just focus on the vegetables and the legumes, and those would be the best way. Now, I'm looking at the time, and I'm thinking, should I go into hypertension, or should we just close off with that and go and organize the... Continue? Okay. Okay. Hypertension is the next one. Now, with diabetes, people might say, well, what is so complex, before I get into hypertension, what is so complex about diabetes that makes it such a dangerous thing? So what if you have sugar in your blood? What happens over time is the sugar, you have these beautiful tiny little capillaries. So you have veins, you have arteries, and then you have these capillaries. These are tiny, tiny little veins that nourish intricate parts of the body, such as your ears, your eyes, right? And so you'll find that individuals with diabetes, or even their legs, there's tiny capillaries there as well. They start losing circulation because the blood is clogged up by the sugar. And so diabetes, as much as it's like, oh, no big deal, I just take my insulin, I'll just take my sugar pill, everything is fine. Over time, it will be detrimental to your health. Losing a leg is not a good thing. I have an aunt in the US, we're all praying for her a few months ago, and one by one, she lost her limbs. First it was the right foot, and we're like, okay, no problem. They cut her up to the knee. Emotionally, we're talking about mental health. Yes, there's COVID. People seem to have lost their mind. You may hear the expression, is it in the water? No, it could be in the food, right? It could very well be in the food. And it affected her very, it was quite difficult and emotional for her to lose a limb. Within a couple of months, they said, well, they can't seem to get the blood flow in the other leg. And we prayed, we had meetings together as a family, we prayed. And it's not to say God doesn't answer prayer, but I do believe that there's consequences to the things we do in life. And it's not that God won't take us, it's not so much he takes you out of it, but he takes you through it. So my aunt, he took her through that, but it was inevitable. She lost both legs now. So diabetes is a serious thing. You can lose your eyesight. That's probably as personal as I can get, because My sister also lost her eyesight. And, okay, I'm not going to go there. My sister passed away not too long ago. And diabetes was her trigger. It started out, she neglected it completely. And before you know it, she lost her eyesight completely. My sister is maybe a year older than me. She has a daughter and an older son. And then before you know it, her heart was affected because diabetes also affects the heart, clogs the arteries and veins, etc. And she had some heart issues, and they couldn't get her blood pressure up. She lost her kidneys, completely shut down. This all happened within 24 hours. Okay? 24 hours. Kidney failure, loss of eyesight, myocardial infarction, everything was happening all at once. A few weeks later, I would say maybe about a month or two after all of this started spiraling, they couldn't get her blood pressure up during dialysis. She went into a coma and she died. So diabetes may seem like something that you can live with. My mom has lived with it for 30 years, but my sister wasn't so lucky. Yes, there was negligence there, so it's a serious disease that you have to take seriously. Even young people. There are children out there that are morbidly obese, they're diabetic. What you feed your children now as they grow will affect their future in the next 10 years or so. So, like I said, diabetes is a serious thing. So hypertension, both of them are intertwined because most people who are diabetic, also it's accompanied with high blood pressure as well. So diabetes, one thing, hypertension, more of a silent killer. What is blood pressure? Blood pressure is when the heart pumps the blood through the arteries and the pressure against the walls of the blood vessels, that's basically your blood pressure. Individuals suffer with hypertension, their pressure is abnormally high. Textbook is 120 over 80, but that depends on the stature of the person. Somebody who's really tall takes a lot of pressure for the blood to go up, so their blood pressure is going to be a little bit higher. So that's just textbook, it's not written in stone. Nevertheless, you have an idea of what high blood pressure is based on your norm or your baseline, so you look for that instead. So if you go home and you don't have 120 over 80, it's not to panic. Are you 6'7", 6 foot, 7 inches? You're most likely going to have a higher blood pressure. Alcohol consumption, high sodium diet, high fat, again, there's the fat, and processed foods. I'll tell you what they all have in common. I'm not sure if you guys can tell right away. What do you think they all have in common? No, I don't know if alcohol is salty, but processed food, yes, is salty. Well, I doubt you'll guess this, but they have what? Yes, that's true, but they do have an overall effect on the body in one way, specifically. They all have free radicals. Free radicals are these wicked, unstable chemicals that, just imagine somebody just going crazy around the room trying to bump into people. That's pretty much what free radicals look like. They want to be stable. So these basically bombard the vessels, cause damage, and before you know it, that damage, your body says, oh, there's a damage in this particular artery in the heart. And so the immune system now, that God created to defend us, says, I'm going to go heal that little spot in the vessel. So instead of good, it's bad. So it goes to that area to heal it, and it forms almost like a barrier, trying to fix that free radical tear that has been caused by processed food, high sodium, etc. And then over time, it forms a plaque, and the artery starts to narrow and increases blood pressure. So all of those have that in common. So factors are cigarette smoking, stress again, obesity. The reason why obesity increases blood pressure is because for every cell, there's something called, just went blank. I'll put it in layman's term. Basically, your blood vessels grow to accommodate the extra cells. So the more cells you have, the more blood vessels. The more blood vessels you have, the higher the blood pressure. Some warning signs are headache, sweaty, rapid pulse, shortness of breath, dizzy, visual impairment, and nausea. So avoid salt, easy to say. Read your labels. I'm like an advocate of reading labels. I find that if I have to read labels, it means I'm in the wrong aisle of the grocery store. Okay? Go by that. If you're reading a label, you should not be in that aisle of the grocery store. So basically, you're in an area filled with processed foods. So my area is the produce, the health section, and the checkout. So once you're reading labels, you know that something's not good. Consume high fiber diet. That helps with slowing down cholesterol movements in your body. We're gonna eat some beautiful waffles downstairs. I'm making more of a breakfast theme because that seems to be one of the challenges when it comes to preparing healthy meals, is breakfast. So we're gonna do a little breakfast downstairs, and we're using oats for those waffles. And it sounds not so delicious, but trust me, it's really, really delicious. Plenty of fruits and vegetables, and of course, exercise. And rest. I love the Sabbath. Rest. Okay. Now, sodium, even though we cut back on our sodium, we need sodium. So it's not to say go on a salt-free diet. I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. Salt is needed for your stomach lining. Does anyone know what the acid is called in your stomach? Excellent, we got a chemist here. So hydrochloric, there's two components, the hydrogen and the chloride. Sodium chloride, NaCl, sodium chloride. So if you need hydrochloric acid, the chloride portion is taken from the things that you eat in your diet. So sodium in itself, especially sodium chloride, is necessary also for stomach acid production as well. And it's for nervous system. If you're a neuroscientist or have studied the nervous system, you'll know that sodium is also very important for transmission of nerve responses, as well as muscle function in regards to muscle contraction. Of course, when you eat a lot of salt, it's visible, your body retains water, increases your blood pressure, and it also decreases your potassium level. It affects your liver and kidney. So I'm kind of moving through these quickly. All right, so here's some remedies. We have garlic. I heard Mark, I believe, maybe a couple months back, Mark had brought a bunch of garlic to church, and he did a little little nugget on it as well. I love garlic. It's in everything that I prepare in terms of savory dishes. It increases the availability of nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide inhibiting ACE, thereby reducing the number of pathways that are known to decrease plasma volume. I know that's all a bunch of complicated stuff. So basically, nitric oxide, it dilates the blood vessel. So high blood pressure, constriction of blood vessel, nitric oxide, dilation of blood vessel, easy blood flow, therefore reduction in blood pressure. That's basically what garlic does. And the plant constituents, its constituent is called allium sativum, I should say. Capsium, pepper. Now, some health reformers would, I might be stepping on some toes of health reformers that, yes, cayenne pepper or anything hot is very stimulating. However, there are some contributing medicinal factors to some of these stimulant herbs. Cayenne pepper, it stimulates the circulation, aids in digestion and pain relief. And It also helps with peptic ulcer, which sounds almost like an oxymoron when you think about it. You have an ulcer and you want to take pepper. However, because of its components, it's actually healing to the digestive system. It decreases your chances of cardiovascular disease. I'm sure you guys have heard the story that if somebody's having a heart attack, you put a little bit of cayenne pepper under their tongue. Why under the tongue? Is because under the tongue you have more dilated blood vessels. The mucous membrane is more permeable and allows for things to flow through easy. So when you take your medicine, like your oil of oregano, I usually put it under my tongue. It absorbs quickly. So cayenne pepper is one of those strange type of plant that works directly even in the case of a heart attack. Beetroot. This is another wonderful herb that has the same component as garlic, which is the nitric oxide. Again, and so that helps to relax and dilate the blood vessels. Celery, that became a big rave, I think last year or the year before. Celery was like almost $5 for a stalk because everybody went out to get celery to make celery juice. And it's strange about celery. Celery has a salty flavor to it, and it actually helps with lowering blood pressure. Unbelievable. So it contains phytochemicals called phthalates, and it relaxes the tissues and the arteries just the same. A great remedy for a colon cleanse would be to take a couple stalks of celery, apple, ginger, and just for flavor, a little piece of pineapple. Blend it up, and it's great for detoxing the colon. So we can juice for blood pressure as well, high blood pressure. We talked about the beets, we talk about the celery, and we talk about the garlic. Ginger is a great antioxidant, so it will help with healing those vessels as well. Now, the contraindication for this remedy, oops, I didn't click. Sorry, I was clicking here and not there. Sorry about that. The great thing about this juice is because of all the antioxidants in it. However, with diabetes, I would not recommend this juice for somebody who's diabetic with high blood pressure. Because of the beetroots, it has a high glycemic index. I would look more for somebody who's diabetic, I would lean towards the celery juice because that still would lower your pressure. And I would add to it maybe a clove of garlic. Okay? So this one, not for diabetics. Oh, you could take a picture with your phone if you can zoom in. Okay? So the next slide would be about exercise and high blood pressure. The more you work your heart, it gets stronger. It's a muscle, so the more you work it, the stronger it gets. And as over time, what happens is that it pumps less, okay? And the force on your arteries decreases, therefore lowering your blood pressure. Okay, so you guys got that? Okay. It lowers your systolic blood pressure, and the systolic is the upper number. Okay? So when you eat well, you feel good. We're getting close to the end. If you incorporate all these fruits and vegetables into your diet, you'll find that you have a clearer mind. You're filled with more energy. I don't know if you notice this or if any of you have ever really done a juice fast. Just get over that third day and you're just invigorated. Like, it's an amazing feeling. So just try it. Try it for a few days. Do a juice fast. If you're diabetic, I suggest you consult somebody first before you proceed with this. But if you're not diabetic and you can do a juice fast, this is a good way just to cleanse your system, just to wash it all out. Give your digestive system a break. All the energy that's used for digestion now goes to the mind, and you have a clear mind, okay? Because energy is divided up in your body. If you remove energy from one place, it doesn't just disappear. It's a law of physics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So you take that energy from the digestion and you put it towards clear thinking. And that way, that's a good time to pray. Praying and fasting, hence, a true fasting and praying, that's what it entails. Complete connection with God. Okay, so eat lots of vegetables, 1 to 3 cups. I think 1 is too little. At least 4 cups. And the best way to do this is with juicing, doing your smoothies. We're going to do a smoothie downstairs as part of your breakfast. Incorporate more legumes and garbanzo. Oh, we're using garbanzo downstairs too. And this wonderful Buddha salad. It's called a Buddha salad. And you can put your vegetables in any form, make a dip with it, make sandwiches with it, make juices out of it. Just any way that you can incorporate your vegetables, that's the best way to do it. Multivitamins, easy, right? Why do I have to do all this? So why not just pop a vitamin? Easy peasy, right? The problem with vitamins is there's no way of measuring what your body needs. Michelle is different than Margaret. What Michelle needs, maybe Margaret doesn't need it, right? And so we have to be careful with vitamins because, believe it or not, some vitamins are cancerous. They can actually cause cancer at certain levels. So you have to be careful, especially the B vitamins. Be careful with those, okay? Now, multivitamins are good, and there's a lot different varieties. However, the difference is they lack, I haven't been doing the slides. Oh, I'm so sorry. The problem with multivitamins are the fact that they don't have the living portion of it. They don't have the enzymes. They don't have the antioxidant. They're created in a lab, and they put them in a little pill, and they say digest them. And so if you notice when you take your vitamins and you go to urinate, the water is completely yellow. If you guys notice that, anybody take vitamins? That's not a good thing. What's happening is that your body is saying, what are you doing? I don't need all of that. So it pees it out. Okay? That is the residue of stuff that you don't need. So when you take your vitamins, you'll see that yellow portion. Most of the vitamins that you take are water soluble. That's why you see them in your urine. So the best thing to do is to eat your veggies. Sorry, I wasn't following the slides. I'm so sorry. And basically, eat the rainbow, which is what I just passed. Okay? And that's it.
I have a question.
Sure.
So now we have so much issues with GMO foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I'm thinking if you eat healthy, then you should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But with our food, our foods have changed, right?
Yeah.
Not natural anymore.
No.
How do we combat that?
Yeah, and that used to be one of my reasoning for taking supplements. And I'm not saying don't take supplements. It's okay to take them as long as you're still eating living food. Like, that's the most important thing. Because you're right, the soil of today is not the same soil of 1950, okay? It's not the same soil. It's been depleted. And we're not like the natives or the indigenous people who knew how to farm. They would rotate, and they would move, and they would, forage in a different way that we're doing. We're depleting the earth of its nutrients. We eat so much meat that it's consuming even water from the planet, water from villages that people need, and just agriculture in its sense, like just overall, when you look at it, it's very bleak. But I just believe that God can just make everything good. If you do your part and let God do the rest. And so it's not to say that beautiful plate of vegetables and that rainbow is lacking the nutrients that you need. Your body will consume what it needs. Nevertheless, just put the good stuff in and let God do the rest. And it's okay to supplement yourself, because I take vitamins, right? And sometimes as a vegan, I have to be careful that I'm not not missing certain things like B12, right? Before they used to say, oh, don't worry about B12 as a vegetarian or a vegan, because, there is some microorganism in some of the foods. that is not really so anymore, because that soil, they've depleted it of microorganisms because of all the pesticides, the runoff from the rain, etc., and so forth, and the way they're just farming is just not the right way anymore at all. So just everything with a grain of salt. Eat your vegetables, eat the rainbow, have your supplements on the sides, but don't depend on them. Don't go, oh, I'm just going to eat whatever today and just take a multivitamin. No, just continue with eating those things. Yeah.
And you can convert to sprouting as well, because sprouting will enhance all
The nutrients that you need. Yeah. Yeah.
have sprouts.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. As long as you have the time to do it, because sprouting can take up a lot of time. But they're selling sprouted things now, so if you don't want to sprout yourself, you can easily go and pick up sprouts also, as long as they're organic. All right? Yeah, that's it. Any more questions? Okay? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it seriously detrimental if you're not eating organic vegetables?
No, it's not, because organic, not what, I'm thinking even socio-economically, not everybody can afford organic. So my tip, because I can't afford organic either, so my tip would be whatever you eat the most of, make the sacrifice and make it organic. I eat apples, all my apples are organic. I like salad, I eat organic salad, right? So if I can afford it, then I do organic berries. But overall, my cucumber is not organic unless I grow it. I have a beautiful garden, so I had cucumber galore this summer. Tomatoes, oh my goodness, they're still there. But whatever you can grow during the summer months and whatever is local, so when winter comes, don't eat citrus fruits. Don't eat things from South Africa. I saw South Africa fruit in the grocery store, and I'm thinking, but I live in Canada, right? So try to, like, during the winter months, eat pears, because somehow in Canada there's factories or these large structures that hold and keep pears and apples cool during the winter months. So we can actually have local fruits and vegetables. Oh, and my favorite, buy frozen. Yeah, it's better to eat frozen fruits and vegetables in the winter months than to eat vegetables and fruits that are from South Africa, from Saudi Arabia. Really? Not Jamaica. Right? So yeah, and the reason why frozen fruits are really good is because they pick them at their ripest. All the things that you get from far away, Argentina, even Mexico, they have to pick them when they're practically green. They're not filled with nutrients. So yeah, so it's best to eat the frozen stuff. Yeah. Okay. We good? All right. So we're gonna go downstairs now, and I'm gonna do. Not right now? Not right now. After Margaret. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the water. It's so dry. Oh my God, I've never been that dry.
Was that right? She's excellent.
I don't know about that.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Under pressure.
No, we didn't know that. I hope you learned something new or just reminded you, but I was really blessed. Thank you so much. She has a wealth of knowledge. So, no, we're not going to take phone numbers now, but she has a wealth of knowledge. You ask her questions, she'll give you all the information that you need. Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to be favored with special music. If I could help somebody as I travel on, my living will not be in vain. So Michelle has just helped us with some important information about nutrition. Our living will not be in vain. Thank you so much. And after that, we'll go downstairs for the demo.
I hope I can follow up with that. That was a great presentation. I don't know if I can sing now because, this one? Oh, Got to turn it on. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, go ahead. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody his traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Oh, my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duties as a good man ought, if I can bring back beauty to a world upright, if I can share love's message as the Master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be